Ladies, stop doing these 5 things for men because they will lose love for you. I'm excited today. Me and my lovely wife, Antia, we're going to be presenting to you the secrets around what makes a man pull away, what makes him fall out of love for you, what makes him want to leave a relationship, and how you can understand male psychology to instead draw a man towards you, have him fall deeply in love, and never want to leave your side and have the best relationship you could possibly imagine. So, hello, we are Antia. That's Antia and Brody Boyd, and we are love experts with Magnetize Your Man. Welcome. Do you want to say hello, Antia?
Hello, everyone. Super excited to be here. And look, we've been doing this for 20 years combined. Can you believe it, Puppy?
Yeah, it's been a long time. We've spoken on hundreds of stages all over the world. Of course, we have a beautiful family, and this is really our life's work to really bring these teachings to the world to help women to create more loving relationships in the world because of these transformational secrets. Because the law of polarity, we only need to help you, and by helping you, you will naturally attract everything you desire from a man. So we're going to go ahead and dive into those 5 secrets today. And I'll let my wife kick us off here with point number 5.
And I love it. It's about stop abandoning yourself for a man. Look, one thing I always tell my women when they come to me is, and when they have abandonment issues, when they have a man who abandoned them, when did you start abandoning? Right? You know, the quality of men that you attract into your life is directly proportional to the relationship you have to yourself, right? Contrary to popular belief, which is the way how you treat other people is how you're going to be treated, which is actually not true.
Yeah. So typically what happens is when a woman is afraid of being abandoned, she ends up abandoning herself rather than risking losing the man. She loses herself in the relationship because she's so afraid of rocking that boat and saying something that might offend him or might cause him to lose interest or pull away or leave. So she puts that all aside, at least temporarily, shoves it under the rug, pretends everything's good. And then what ends up happening is, of course, she starts to build some resentment. She starts to have needs that are going unmet, and that starts to eventually start coming out of the rug and into the relationship, and it causes chaos, it causes issues, and the relationship will end up ending anyways, and she gets exactly what she feared, which is being abandoned.
So, for example, I grew up in an emotionally unavailable household. And because of that, of course, I had abandonment issues because when I had, when I needed actually attunement, emotional attunement, like a parent validating my emotions. Oh, you feel sad right now, or you feel angry right now. Of course, you have all the right to feel this way. I was, of course, told, like, who do you think you are? Or do you think you had do you have a better childhood than I did? Right. So, my mom, for example, was comparing her horrible childhood to mine, which sometimes parents who have a narcissistic, traits can do, right? And I say, well, why should you have it better? Now, as a consequence of that, I found myself walking on eggshells, like Bodhi already alluded to. And I was, people pleasing, right? I was like thinking, well, how can I be the best girlfriend and the best date that I can be to a man? And not speaking up, right? Not saying, well, I noticed that he was not really pulling the chair up. Yeah, I noticed he wasn't really offering to pay for both of us, right? Or I noticed he wasn't asking me what I want to eat or drink or anything like that. I noticed that he was interrupting me a lot in the conversation, right? But I'm not going to say anything, right? Because I want to be liked. And so where do you abandon yourself? It's like you actually think, okay, this is not right? Like he just interrupted me and I actually feel disrespected, right? I actually feel not safe, right? Because I actually don't feel seen. I actually don't feel heard. I actually don't feel listened to, but I'm not going to say that. So that's already where you abandon yourself, right? And then I think, okay, but I get the approval from the man because the man's not going to say, oh, I had such a wonderful date with Antia. Like, I'm going to have another date with her. But you know what the man is actually going to say? And Brody can probably allude to that a little bit more. Well, I don't know. Somebody's like, no, let me think about it, right? She's cute and very good conversation, but let me think about it, right? And it's because he just kind of feels like, something's kind of off, right? Like it's something, there's some lack of transparency, authenticity. I can't put my finger on it. And therefore, the confused mind says no. But I'm sure, Puffy, you have a little bit more to say about that.
No, I think you covered it. So let's actually get to our next piece here, which is to stop trying to save him. So if you have a man who you feel you want to help him, you want to give to him, you want to make him happy, because secretly you're hoping that he's going to love you more, he's going to like you more, he's never going to want to leave you. Well, that is another example of where your good intentions ends up typically backfiring in your face because of the law of polarity, which states that masculine energy attracts feminine energy. If you're trying to save him, he has no space to save you. You are in the masculine role. You are being his hero. You are being his provider. You are being, quote unquote, the man by trying to save him, by trying to make him happy, by trying to fix his issues. So, in order to solve that, you have to stop the madness, and you have to stop digging a hole. If you find yourself in a hole, the first thing to do is stop digging, stop making it worse. So, stop trying to save him, stop trying to fix him. And by stopping, you're creating space. You're creating an opening, just like that hole analogy. Now you're no longer digging the hole. Well, now you could actually climb out of the hole. And now he could actually start filling up the hole. And he could say, like, hey, now let's stop this. Let me actually build a house for you. Let me build a garden for you. Let's create a foundation in this hole. Let's build a house together. Let's build a great life together, because you stopped doing it. You stopped the madness. And now there's going to be somebody that has to step in. I also love the analogy when you're driving a car, there could only be one driver at a time. If you're the one in the driver's seat, you need to get out. You need to pull the car to the side, go inside Starbucks and get your drink, and then come back and sit in the back seat of the car. And now the only option that's left is either you're going to just sit there, or he's going to have to get in the front seat and start driving you and start taking care of you and leading the relationship forward from his healthy masculine energy. So don't get caught in these complexes that can happen where you feel that in order for you to have the relationship you want, you have to be the fixer. You have to find men who are damaged or broken, and then you have to build them up, fix them up, change them. And that's how you feel you're going to be loved finally. And you're going to have the relationship that lasts, because who would want to ever leave you if you gave so much to them? Well, that's not how it works. You giving is killing the attraction. It's killing the polarity. He needs to give to you. He needs to save you. He needs to be your knight in shining armor. So that's what we have to create by getting you into your feminine energy.
Yeah. And to add on to what Brody shared, right? Where is this actually coming from? So if you take, for example, my life experience where I could literally not save my mom, she was suffering a lot, and she was, more like a covert narcissist, meaning she had covert narcissistic traits, meaning like she was collapsing more into the victim archetype. And because of that, I was constantly like trying to save her, trying to save her from her suffering, or from having migraine every other weekend, you name it. Now, because of course I couldn't do that because I don't have the resources for that. And this is something that a woman has to work through and actually heal from, that she can't heal the person. Like, she actually needs to let the hope die that the parent is going to change, right? But because I didn't do that, like, guess what? I projected the helplessness, the powerlessness onto the man. Because another thing you're going to do is, like, if somebody needs saving, then you're actually saying the man is helpless, right? The man is powerless. So you're actually communicating that helpless and powerless part inside of him. And then guess what? You magnify more of it. Why is that? Well, because we're actually stepping into the unconscious expectation of our partner, right? Our partner becomes our environment, and our environment trumps willpower. So even if a man says, I'm powerful, but if I have a partner who constantly speaks into my powerlessness, then I have no choice than to either, if I stay with her, to continue to act from a powerless and helpless place, and then you build resentment, right? And so the only way how you can actually stop that is saying, well, guess what? You know what? I actually need to save myself, right? and that's like the hardest thing. It's like why women get stuck with men who have like drug addictions, like, alcoholics, things like that, right? Is because there's so much like in that collapsed, lover energy, right? Like Brody talks a lot about the shadow lover energy, right? Because the woman is enables him, by saying, oh, let me help you. And I'm going to fix the problem for you, right? Versus saying, you know what, I'm going to save myself. I'm saving my own little girl inside of myself, right? We have like different energies inside of ourselves. And one is the little girl. And you get to save yourself, right? But I can't save you, and that's a grief that then the woman has to go through, of course, with support of an expert.
Yes. And so before we get to our next point, if you haven't yet and you really want to take this to the next level and understand the principles of magnetic feminine polarity, magnetic feminine communication fully, we highly recommend taking our free love quiz to get a loving, long-term committed relationship with a man you want fast by clicking the link in the description below, or you can go to the comments or go to our bio, wherever you're watching this at, or to our website, magnetizeyourman.com right now to pick that up for free as our gift to you. All right, so let's get to the next point here. And also, if you have any questions or comments on anything that we're sharing here, go ahead and start posting them, because we're going to be answering some questions and comments to help you with your specific situation as well as we continue on this journey tonight. So the next point number 3, is to stop making excuses for him. And so what this is all about is understanding that it's very easy to tell yourself a story about your relationship that justifies the situation that you're in. So we as humans, we tend to act on emotion and we justify with logic. So if you really like this guy and you really care about him, you love him, you're attached to him, probably because you've already slept together. Unfortunately, that creates a lot of biological bonding that happens with that. Then you're going to be much more likely to start justifying it to yourself and making up logical reasons of why he's a good man, why it's a good fit, why this is a good relationship. Even when your girlfriends, your family, other people may be telling you, look, this isn't a good situation. This guy isn't really caring about you. He's not really showing you the love and affection you desire and deserve. And then it'll be, those stories will come up. Well, but he's making changes and he's working on himself, and, he's going through a hard time, and his dog just got diagnosed with diabetes, and he's trying to understand why his childhood was the way it was. So he's doing all these things or not doing all these things, or things are going on, and you're just making up stories. And these stories could be true or they could be not true. Likely, a lot of them are not true because the emotional wiring is what's actually compelling you to keep being in the relationship with him. So the way out of that is to first off recognize that you may be telling yourself these stories and see them as stories, that they're made up. You don't know what his true intentions are. You don't know what's going on. All you could really go off of is the facts of his actions and his words. And really his actions are key. What is he actually doing? How does he treat you? How often is he checking in with you? What action steps has he taken? Is he leading? Is he planning? Is he committing to you? Those are real actions that show his love for you. And by the way, a more masculine man is not going to show his love typically as much through his words as his actions. Like if he's a real healthy masculine man, he's going to be showing you he loves you through his actions, by showing up for you, by protecting you, by checking in with you, by solving problems for you, by wanting to be the leader in the relationship and making those decisions and making your lives great together. So those are real actions. And so you want to catch yourself and avoid getting caught in excuses and stories and letting yourself slip into becoming a doormat potentially and not getting real help with this. And that's why it is so important to work with an expert, because they can help unlock what are the stories here versus the facts, and what can we actually do to get the relationship you want with him.
And this goes a little bit back to the codependent pattern, right? And that I was falling into as well. And so, like we really want to adopt more a pattern of, so what, now what? Because guess what? I bet with you anything that you don't give yourself excuses, right? Why is that? Well, because you're holding yourself accountable. You're saying like, you know what, like the kids need to be fed, I need to get going. Yes, I had, sexual abuse. Yes, I had, a drug addicted ex-husband, right? But the show must go on. So it's interesting that then, like, why don't you hold the man accountable to the same standard, right? And I can tell you why that is, because you learned in your childhood to say, well, I'm not holding my parents accountable, right? So we always have two parts in the relationship to our parents, right? We have the compassionate part that's saying, look, they didn't have the resources, they didn't have that level of consciousness, they had an abusive childhood. Well, you didn't, by the way, right? And then there's the other part that's like, well, we don't want to blame them, right? But that's actually what you need to heal, that you need to find that part inside of yourself to also hold the other person accountable, right? And again, you're already holding yourself accountable, right? You're cutting you don't cut yourself some slack, if you would, like, you would be actually much more compassionate to yourself, and you would not be here, and so you would actually stop making excuses for him, which is, to add on to what Brody said, it's really saying you're anticipating his reality way more than your own. When women come to me, and I was like the same way, right? I knew everything about the man. I knew like what was going on with his aunt, and I knew what happened in his childhood, and I knew what his ex, life, what it was like, and how many kids he has, and what problems they have. And then I say, wait a minute, what about yourself? Like, what problems do you have? You know what I mean? What are you dealing with that you're overcoming every day? But that's what women don't focus on. So again, it's really like learning to focus on yourself.
That is exactly our next point. So look at that.
Look at
Number
that.
2, stop focusing on him rather than yourself. Because here's the thing. Masculine energy is about outer focus. It's about problems, the world, protection. What threats do I have to look out for? What opportunities do I look out for? And how can I get the outcome that I want? That's masculine energy. Feminine energy is about inward focus, feeling into yourself. How am I feeling right now? What do I want? What do I want to do today? Am I feeling into my body? Do I feel my feet on the ground? Am I feeling my breath? And all the inner stories and thoughts and feelings that you're having about yourself. That's the feminine energy. So similar to the way our anatomies are designed as men, our genitalia are outer focus, women's genitalia are inner focus, right? Receptivity versus penetration. So you want to adopt the feminine energy if you want to attract a masculine love and care and devotion. So that means stop focusing on him, stop thinking about what he wants, stop thinking about if he likes you or not. Instead, focus on yourself. How are you feeling? What do you want? What are your needs? And then how can you communicate that to him, opening your heart to him to let him have a glimpse, similar to a flower opening its petals, being readily available for the honeybees to come and get some nectar. You are like that, exposing that vulnerability within yourself that a man can then feel you, he can understand you, and then he is coming to you. He's wanting to help you. And that's where feminine communication comes into play. Because if you don't understand feminine communication in the way that we teach it with our clients and our coaching memberships, you're going to have a hard time being able to properly bridge the gap between you and him. Men are wired differently. Men aren't as emotionally wired as you are. Men are typically more outer focused than you are if they're in their healthy masculine. And so for them to fully empathize with you and understand, they're going to need a clear bridge where you can show that to them without them feeling penetrated, attacked, blamed, criticized, emasculated, judged, etc. Like you're trying to control them or lead them. So it's a delicate balance with feminine energy and with feminine polarity and communication to have that channel open up where a man is like, yes, I understand her. I get it. I feel for her and I want to help her. I want to make her feel good, because if he has any level of care for you, his new mission becomes, how can I make my woman feel happy? How can I make her feel good? Because that's how I know I'm doing a good job as a man, if he's a healthy man and not a broken man. Do you have anything to share with that, Antia?
Well, and of course, the origin of that comes from, again, when you had a childhood where you didn't get the attention necessary, right? Like particular in a second developmental stage, getting your needs met consistently, right? So you cry for milk, you cry for attention, you actually get it, but to actually being communicated again, I'm more important, or I don't have time for you, or the world doesn't have time for you, right? It is what it is, and you really learn. Or maybe you had a parent who was a caretaking case early on, maybe got sick, maybe you had so many siblings that your parents could focus on you. I mean, there's many different reasons, right? Of course, emotional unavailability in parents as well. And so you feel like, okay, you know what? If I make my parents happy, then maybe at least someone will be happy, right? So you really say, like, you know what? Like, my parents are God, so I must be doing something wrong. So if my parents are upset at me, right? If my parents are depressed, or if my parent is sad, then that must be my fault. You see, because like little kids, they totally overestimate the influence and impact that they have on their parents' emotional, quote unquote, well-being in the world, right? And so why is that? Well, because the child needs to convince herself that she has the power to change it, because that gives her the will to survive. That gives her the will, and she stays motivated to take action, right? Otherwise, she would just end up in depression and apathy, right? Like, what's the point? You know what I mean? And so, of course, that's like really, really unsafe for a child. And so, therefore, she needs to convince herself, I can do something about it, And that means I become other focus. I just save everyone. I help everyone. I become the helper, which is such a pet peeve about that. So if you're a parent, make sure you don't train your child to be like the little helper. And unless she wants to be, or he wants to be, right? But to not train that person to be other focused, right? Or, you have to be kind, and you have to like let other people overstep your boundaries, right? Because you don't want to offend anyone, and so on and so on. So the programming just goes on in preschool, kindergarten, and elementary school, and so on, right? But instead, you actually want to break through that mold, that programming, and actually say, you know what, like, I'm willing to be called selfish. I'm willing to be called inconsiderate, right? I'm willing to be called ruthless, because it's important to me to be true to myself, because then I'm going to attract that same in reflection to myself.
Yeah, totally. And so before we get to our next point that we have here, I want to remind you, if you have any questions or comments that you would like to get support with today, go ahead and post them in the comments right now, and we will be answering a few questions after this so you can get some help with your situation. So make sure to do that now so you'll be in line to get some of those when we open it up to get some of that support. All right. So the number one thing to stop doing for a man, or else you risk losing his love, is obviously to stop giving him money. And you'd be surprised how often this comes to our plate as coaches and the women coming to us who need help, when we hear all kinds of crazy stories of women paying for guys' rent and trips and dinners and all kinds of things, because again, it goes back to the principles of she's trying to earn his love. She's focused on him. She's trying to manipulate him. She's trying to get things from him. So she's doing this as a way of providing for him, hoping that he's going to love her. And actually the opposite ends up being true. Yes, he might appreciate it in the moment as like a little boy. Thank you, mommy. Thank you for paying my rent. I appreciate it. This is amazing. But he's not feeling love and devotion, deep love, passion, and devotion for his mommy or for someone who's being his protector and provider. That's a different kind of affection. That's, if anything, him just falling more into his feminine energy, actually, and starting to now fear and respect you, but not love and adore you, because you are in the masculine role. You're in the masculine energy. So as with giving, you have to stop it. Even if a man is asking you to give him some money or give him something, you have to feel into yourself first and see if that actually feels good to you or not. And then you, even beyond that, you have to look at the overall relationship dynamic and say see for yourself, overall, are you giving more to him or is he giving more to you? And if you're giving more to him, you need to stop it right now, because that's going to continue the dynamic. It's going to continue the polarity and the passion diminishing and eliminating. And that's your only hope to actually have him come back to you and have a relationship that works with a healthy polarized dynamic where he's in his healthy masculine energy, you're in your healthy feminine energy. You both feel passion and love and devotion for each other, but especially him for you, the only way you're going to get there is you first have to stop the madness and stop doing these things for him. And then you can start to encourage him and inspire him to do these things for you, to actually give you money, attract wealth and abundance from men, from the world, because you can attract a lot of wealth and abundance by using the principles that we teach you, connecting to your feminine energy, because it's naturally magnetic. It's magnetic to men, it's magnetic to people, and it's magnetic to intangible energies like money and like wealth. You are the flower, you are attracting the honeybees. You are the flame, you are attracting the moths. You are the planet, you are the sun, you're having the planets orbit around you because of your feminine core, because of the beauty of that. Just like an amazing, beautiful, cute little kitten is naturally magnetizing people who want to take care of it and want to love it and want to get it all kinds of things, because it's just so adorable. It's just so cute. It's so precious. You want a man to think of your heart as precious. You want a man to think of you as adorable, because that means he's adoring you. He's cherishing you. That's what you want. And so you have to take off the armor. You have to take off the I'm an independent boss babe and I got it all handled and I can take care of myself and I can pay for myself and I could even do this for you. He doesn't want that. Not a healthy masculine man. Yeah, a broken man may appreciate that, but he's not going to respect you for that. He's not going to really adore you for that. He's going to say, thank you. And I'm going to go spend time with this other woman who I can actually be of service to her. And I could be the hero for her, because that feels better to me from my masculine core, because every man has a masculine core deep inside. Do you have any thoughts on that, Nucky?
Yeah, because a man will not measure you based on what you can do for him. And I think, the unconscious programming here is, again, right, like I'm not worthy until I give, right? And so when women are like really good, when they have a very strong work ethic, they can still make a lot of money. That doesn't mean that they have healed their insecurities and their worthiness unconsciously, right? And I know that's like contrary to other beliefs that are out there, but Brittany, I've seen so many women who have tons of insecurities now, super, super abundant, right? Because guess what? How they play out their insecurities is that take all the money that they have and use it as a tool. The tool is again to get the approval. So you have to really see like, what do you do with the money? And then the other piece is the woman can't hold the money, right? Because she feels like as soon as she has the money, she needs to give it away. I see that with women a lot, like out of the sudden, it's like a family member also who, benefits from her having all this money. Because why is that? Well, because she's very weak boundaries, right? She doesn't want to be considered rude. She doesn't want to be considered selfish. And again, it's that lack of shadow work that she's like going through, right? So yeah, it's really, and we've heard stories. I mean, women changing their will, taking their own kids out of the will, writing over houses. And so that's why we had to really address this, because this is so serious, you guys. I mean, Brittany and I've heard so many cases, you can't even make this up.
We should write a book about it as like a warning.
No, seriously.
Like every woman, when she turns 18, will get this warning book. It says listen to these stories and don't do these things ever. Because we'll have a lot more happy relationships if that were the case, which is what we're trying to do here. So share this video with some girlfriends so that they can avoid the future pain that may be coming if they're on the wrong track with all this. So now we're going to start answering some questions. So again, if you have questions on anything we mentioned, or for your dating and a situation with a man, go ahead and post it in the chat right now. We'll answer a couple of them and see how many we can get through before we wrap this up for tonight. So Beatrice said, thank you so much for the update. You're welcome, Beatrice. Glad it's helping. Sadie said, claiming harmonious twin flame union in Jesus' name. Yes. Amen for that. We'll support you that, Sadie. God made you a promise. That is true. You will get the desires of your heart. And then Lisa said, you make a lot of sense, Brody. I've been enjoying your videos and appreciate what you do. Keep up the good work. Glad you're enjoying that, Lisa. Great to hear. She said also your analogies are spot on. And Susie said, appreciate all your knowledge. I wish I learned a lot sooner. Life-changing. Thank you, Susie. Glad it helps. And Bushi said, thanks a million. God bless. All right. So now we're getting to our first question here. So Lisa said, how important is it to most men that a woman has achieved some sort of career success? Granted, everyone is different, but in your opinion, in general. So here's what I'd say about that, Lisa, and then like to hear your opinion on it as well, Nike, which is what I call her. Men typically don't care about your career success. A healthy masculine man, I'll say, does not care about your career success. What's more important to them is, can they feel your heart? Can they feel you? Can they sense that you value yourself, that you're taking care of yourself at some basic level? So rather than like you're some high achieving career woman, a man will value that you can at least take care of yourself to some level, that he doesn't need to um, spoon feed you, or he doesn't need to, force you to go to sleep on time and things like that. But there's some things that a man can do for you, and there's other things you need to do for yourself. So if you're single, it's good to, as a basic practice, to at least be able to support yourself in some fashion in our modern age. And now, however, beyond that, a man doesn't really care. And there's this story, this analogy that goes around that's kind of funny, but they've done studies where men will rank women in different uniforms, wearing a doctor's uniform, dressed like a CEO. And the assumption is that they are these, CEOs, doctors, police officers, whatnot. And what they found is that men will rank the same woman exactly the same, whether she's wearing a doctor's outfit or a doctor's, whether she's a doctor or a CEO, or if she works at McDonald's. They will rank her the same as far as how attracted they feel to her. Now, of course, as you probably know, for women, it's the opposite. Women are ranking men very differently based on how they're dressed, their career, etc., on how attracted they feel to them. So they're ranking the McDonald's worker very low, and they're ranking the CEO or the doctor very high. And the men, it's literally doesn't matter. So that's a good way to look at it, is that men, they really don't care about those things. They're looking for something different. And that's what we teach you. And that's what we help you with, how to open up your feminine energy, your feminine heart, to be able to communicate also properly with a man from feminine communication rather than masculine communication. Because especially if you're a high-powered career woman, you're likely operating from masculine energy, not only in your career, but that's going to translate a lot into your relationships as well. Your overall approach, getting outcomes, structure, leading, managing, etc., helping, giving. And so we got to reverse a lot of that in your romantic life, to where how you can inspire a man instead to start doing those things for you. How can he lead you? How can he lead the relationship forward? How can he give to you, provide for you, protect you? And that doesn't always have to be financially, but he can provide for you in all kinds of ways, from his masculine energy, solving problems for you, leading, protecting, that we talked about. And that's going to make you feel taken care of and safe and cherished. And that's also going to make him feel like a man. It's going to make him feel empowered. He's going to feel respected, which is key for a man. He's going to feel valued, and he's going to feel like a hero, which is going to give him that sense of masculine purpose and change his whole view of you and your relationship dynamic. Do you have anything to share about that, Antia?
I think that was like sort of your forte, sort of perfect
Yeah.
answer to a perfect question for a man.
All right. Great. Maybe this one could be good to go into as well. It's very similar. So Bushi said, question, what if he is a good guy, but he really needs money? He really, really needs it. Can you step in and give him money if he doesn't ask you? That's even worse, I would say, Bushi. It's even worse if you give him money that he didn't even ask you for. So at least if a man asks you for money, he's sort of leading you. He's sort of giving some direction, but that's still not from the right place. And also you have to look out for, is this a scammer? Because if you haven't met this man in person, obviously, if he lives in a different country, it's probably a scammer. And now with AI, it's very easy. And there's billions of dollars that women lose every year because of online scams and various scams. So definitely don't give him money if you haven't met in person, if you're not in an actual committed exclusive relationship in person together, where you see each other every week in person. Never do that. Now, if a man even asks you for money, there's a couple caveats with that. So if a man asks you for money, says, I got into a bad situation financially, my dad, I have to pay for this and that, and he's having health things and I have to help, and then, or I'm buying a house and I'm just would you be able to give me some money while I fix this? I mean, again, this is like very, very, very specific situation. You have to check in with yourself first off and say, does this feel good to you? If it feels good to you from a place of he's leading you and you want to give to him from that place of him leading you, then maybe you can do it. Now, there's one more caveat to that. The other caveat is you have to look at the overall relationship now at this point and see, in general, is he giving more to you than you're giving to him? So this may be okay for you to give him some money if he's giving and providing for you in a variety of other areas. So he's planning dates, he's making decisions for you, he's solving problems, he's helping you with other areas of your life, like your health, like your career, like your family. He's like doing things for you. He's protecting you. He's going out of his way to make sure you're safe, make sure things are taken care of in your life. He's looking out for you. He's checking in with you regularly. He's asking about your feelings. Like if he's doing all of these other things, because you know why I have to put this caveat in here is because in our modern day and age where women are making more money than men, there's a lot of situations where the woman does have more money than him. And some men are in hard spots and they're not making any money. And so while they're getting their career going or they lost their job or something happens, you know? So there are some caveats to this where I would say, okay, if he's still providing in other areas and he's doing much more than you are and he's giving to you in much more overall, then yes, maybe you can give him some money if it feels good to you. That would be the only caveat, I would say. Do you have anything to add to that, Antia?
And of course, we're not talking about Peter Pan syndrome, right? Where he says like, well, I'll cook for you, right? So we heard that like a lot, if I can live with you, I mean, I can't pay rent or I can't contribute to the grocery bill, but I'll cook for you, right? No, that's like the Peter Pan, right? It's like trying to kind of schmooze you a little bit, right? With sort of, I cook for you and I'll give you a massage and, that's not what we're talking about. And again, the other piece also is, and we've actually gone through that too, personally with some people that we're close with, particular for me, is that it was even hard to not give this man money. And this is like family member. And it actually served this man really well because Brody actually taught me something really important is that the masculine actually strives when he struggles. Right. And why is that? Why? Because it actually grows in self-confidence. Right. He's like, guess what? This particular man needed to figure it out. And guess what? He actually figured it out. And it would have been so easy for me to set money. No problem whatsoever. It didn't even mean anything to me, But I think because I didn't do that, this particular man is now very, very grounded and aligned in his masculine and trusting himself that he can provide for the girlfriend that he now has and he's about to propose to.
Yeah, that's another point we should have added to our training, which is don't enable a man. So you can enable a man, his bad behaviors, by feeding into it. Just like with an addict, you don't want to enable an addict by giving him more things to be addicted to. So he might be addicted to getting money from you. He might be addicted to you being his mommy. And every time you give him more, you're enabling him. You're causing him to stay in his victimhood and stay in his addiction, stay in his unhealthy patterns as a man. Because again, every man has a masculine core deep inside and they want to be a healthy masculine man. They want to wake up. There's a lion inside of every little kitten, every little lion cub. There's still a lion that is inside that eventually can be a lion if he's in the right circumstances, if he's awakened by his woman to be a lion and to actually step into his full power as a man, to be able to provide, to be able to give, to be able to lead and take care of himself and take care of others. And he's going to feel much happier because of that. So be very careful on that as well. And so definitely do not just give a man money, especially if he doesn't ask for it, and avoid those things. There are some caveats. You can do it in the other situation, but we already covered that. So I hope that helps, Bushi, and we're going to get to some more as well. So Tammy said, Jungian psychology is a must to become whole and not need external validation. Do you want to
That's
comment
about the
on that?
shadow work that she's addressing. Yeah.
Yeah. You have anything else you want to comment on about that?
No, I mean, I already talked about it so much, right? Because the Jungian work is all about like also seeing, what do you What do you not trust in other people? What do you judge in other people? Where's that inside of yourself, right? And so then if you become harmonious inside of yourself, then Tammy's absolutely right. You don't need any external validation, right? Because you can 100,000% fortify yourself, advocate for yourself, and therefore validate yourself, really.
Yeah. And Katrina said, what's the best way to date today? Well, that's a really big question, Katrina, but
It's
I
a
would
really
give you
broad question. Where do we start?
so many. I would start focusing in on like where you blocked with your dating. What are some issues you're coming across or areas that you're not having any direction? Now, if you're just getting started, which it sounds like you might be, what I would recommend is, well, for one, starting to learn more about masculine, feminine energy, like what we teach in our courses, in our communities, magnetic feminine polarity, magnetic feminine communication. So you're understanding yourself better, which is where this all starts, yourself as a woman, and then also starting to understand men in a deeper level and how they interact, how they communicate, just like in a dance where the masculine is leading, the feminine is following, and all the intricacies that can happen in a professional salsa dance or a ballroom dance, West Coast swing. There can be a lot of distinctions that you may not have, and it can take a while to really learn and master a dance or to master a new language. So you need to commit to it, and you need to also practice it, and you need to put in a little bit of time and energy and commitment to actually have the relationship you want long term and master these things. Because once you have it mastered, then it's just about maintenance, and you'll have the best relationship of anyone you know, because you've learned these principles and you put them into practice and you've actually mastered them. So we also have what's called our Magnetic Feminine online dating course. So there are a lot of powerful ways you can use feminine principles in online dating, which I would highly recommend, especially in how you communicate with men, what you put in your bio, the photos that you pick, the messages that you respond to. How do you respond to them? How do you even send messages to guys from a feminine place? Now that's a powerful distinction. So we teach you all that in that course that we have in on our Magnetic Feminine Polarity coaching memberships. And then also, really, you just have to get out there. Remember, 80% of success, as Woody Allen says, is just showing up. You're showing up here to this training, which is great. You're putting energy into yourself. You're actually increasing your feminine energy right now by investing into yourself rather than just focus on him and thinking about him and what he's doing and what he likes, etc. You're thinking about yourself. You're thinking about how you can understand yourself better as a woman, how you can understand relationships, psychology, men and male and female dynamics. But yeah, so you also have to put yourself out there at the end of the day and actually show up also to social events, activities in your area where you can be available to actually be approached by men and actually have them start pursuing you, especially when you use the principles we'll teach you. So you're in the right place. Just start going deeper, and that'll hopefully get you some areas to start focusing on and getting started with that. We wish you luck. Katrina said online dating is tricky. And yes, it can be very tricky to navigate that as well. And like I said, there's a lot of scammers. So it can be very helpful to know how to properly navigate that and trusting your feminine intuition in the process as well. Learning how to trust that. Lisa said, good advice. Robin said, extremely helpful. Glad it's helpful. And Lisa said that study is fascinating. Yeah, exactly. It's a very fascinating study on how men really don't care about your status or your career or your finances from an attraction point of view. Yeah, I'll try to find that study and share it. Maybe we can do a video and go through that study in more detail. Now, I will add this one caveat that there is something to be said about men connecting with women who have similar interests. So for long-term relationships, it can be good to have similar values and similar interests as a man. So that's one area where your career could come into play and attracting a man, but it's more from a place of that you guys have things you can both talk about. You guys have things that you're interested in, similar values that can come with certain professions. So that can add to it, but you can also get a lot of that from hobbies and from reading, etc. It doesn't necessarily have to come from your career. So that's something men are also looking for is, yes, they do want to be able to connect with you intellectually, emotionally, physically, spiritually. I mean, that was one of the things that connected me with Antia the first night that we met in Hawaii, the first day/night, is I said, I realized that you're like the girl from my story because we connected physically. I was physically attracted to her, but then we were also having these conversations about similar books that we've read and principles and how she'd studied a lot of masculine feminine polarity and I was just like, wow, this is really great. So there is that aspect I'll add into it as well, beyond just magnetic feminine polarity and feminine communication. That could be a big piece too, the values and the interests. All right, so let's see. Bushi said, wow, glad I was helping you, Bushi. All right. So Tammy said, I politely disagree. I get attracted to a man who's secure of himself, respects me, and is highly spiritual, among other things that are not determined by how he dresses or what line of work he's in.
Well, in general, Tammy, this is a study, right? And studies are based on averages, right? That doesn't mean that every woman, we're just seeing like that the majority of women, and again, we'll see exactly what the numbers are in the research study when Brody posts that. But of course, there's going to be women that don't care about that, right? That's not what the study says. The study didn't say every woman, just like it just says
Yeah,
is
on average.
significant, right? There's like a statistical significance. So the significant amount of more women didn't care about that, right? Does that mean there's some other women did? Absolutely, right? With UC Berkeley, there was like a 2% admission chance to get in. And I said, well, I don't really care about, I'm not going to fall into the the statistically significant numbers, right? Like I'm going to be the outlier, right? So you're going to be one of the outliers. Fantastic, right? So that's your reality. And I invite you to obviously continue to embrace that.
Yeah, so I'll go ahead and share my screen here. I actually was able to find that study. Let's just read it real quick. Not the whole study because that would take too long, but I'm going to see if I can share my here. And then actually, let me see, pull it up here. All right, that should be it. Okay, can everyone see my screen here? See what it's doing. All right. All right, so the effects of potential partners' costume and physical attractiveness on sexuality and partner selection. The Journal of Psychology, I read somewhere this was done in 1990, John Townsend and Gary Levy. So male and female college students in the United States viewed models who had been pre-rated for physical attractiveness and who were dressed in costumes representing one of three levels of socioeconomic status. Subjects reported their willingness to engage with these stimulus persons in 6 relationships involving various levels of marital potential and sexual involvement. Models' costume status had greater effect on female subjects' willingness than on male subjects' willingness to enter all 6 relationships. So all 6 different types of relationships, it was different for men and women. That means sexual, that means marital. So even from a marriage perspective, men were having no real difference in their view of the women based on their socioeconomic status, not just for sex. This difference was larger when the physical attractiveness of models was low than when it was high. Costume status also affected female subjects' ratings of male models' attractiveness, but did not affect male subjects' ratings of female models' attractiveness. Results supported 8 hypotheses derived from evolutionary theory. In choosing partners, men and women weighed potential partners, socioeconomic status, and physical attractiveness differently, and these factors may have different behavioral implications depending on the degree to which sexual relations or marital potential or both are involved. So, hope that was helpful and gives you some insights into where that was coming from, and hope we all learned something today based on that.
I learned something, which, by the way, marry man who always continues to surprise you, ladies. I highly recommend it. So thank you, Shnaki.
Yeah, and the thing that's important, well, for one, it's a real study, and the other thing that was important that I didn't even know about that study was that it actually was the same when men were ranking the women based on sexual attractiveness as well as their potential to marry those women. So that's really powerful as well, that whether a man wants sex or marriage, he still doesn't care about your socioeconomic status. I'm just on that study, right? It's a study. So it's not saying everybody, some men may value that more than other men. Some women may not value that more than other women, but it's important to realize that this is a way that a lot of women are wired and a lot of men are wired, and it's different for each, which is a big part of masculine, feminine polarity as well that we teach, because men and women are different although society will try to teach you otherwise and our culture will try to teach you otherwise, we're very different. And it's important to understand those differences so that you can create the life and relationship that you want. That's what we're saying. All right. So Susie said, what's the best way to express interest to a man in a competitive environment? I think this will be the last question for today. What's the best way to express interest to a man in a competitive environment, as in other women interested in him? Any flirting advice, especially for shy girls? Do you want to start with that, Susie? Antia?
Well, so first off, women are so prone, the more feminine they are, right, to compare themselves, right? We're also masculine too, right? Because like a feminine woman doesn't actually care about competitiveness, right? And why is that? Why? Because she said, there's no competition for me because I'm unique. Like how could I compete with someone? They're not better or worse. I'm not better with. I'm just different than them, right? So how can you compare that, right? And so that's like number one. So again, just really seeing like where am I on a scale of 1 to 10 on the comparison scale? One thing I always talk about, like, where do we give our power away? And one is like to actually compare ourselves, right? And back then when I was dating before I met Brody, I was comparing myself to all the women who were, and it's funny, like the guys that I dated ended up with Asian women. And so I was like, well, there you go. You know what I mean? I can't win, right? And so like really seeing like, hold on, your man is going to be attracted to you. And why is that? Because you have a unique, what I call attraction alchemy. So what I actually think is much more important, and I don't think there's anything like in a competitive environment, because God will create unique circumstances in which you will meet your man. So if you feel like, oh, the online dating world is so competitive, well, then you meet him at the grocery store. Then a friend introduces him to you at church. You know what I mean? Maybe it's someone that you met 20 years ago who comes back into your life. I mean, we've heard all the stories, seriously, right? And so like really letting go of the how, like commit to the process, detached from the outcome, right? So letting go of the how and just really saying, what do I want to attract into my life, right? And so what that takes, Susie, and obviously I don't know you personally, what I see with my women is letting go of the need to be in control, to be right, to have that certainty, because it will happen in a way that you don't expect, right? And does that mean you still have to show up? Absolutely. But you will be inspired to show up. There will be a little nudge, right? For me, there was a little nudge. I was laying on the beach in Kailua. And for those of you who know Oahu, and there was a little nudge to check out Meetup, the Meetup app, right? And I was like a little nudge, oh, I should check out this spiritual discussion group, right? So I showed up, but I wasn't like, oh my God, I'm going to meet my husband there, right? I'm going to meet somebody I'm going to meet long-term there, right? Like, I'm going to put my makeup on, put my best. No, I was just like, that was just a little nudge. So just like following that, and it was really quick in terms of flirting tips for shy girls. For first of all, letting go of any labels, right? Because what's the word that I'm looking for? The labels, like not the territory, right? And what I mean by that is like remove yourself saying, I'm the shy girl. You don't have a certain identity. There's maybe a part inside of you that's a little bit more introverted. Maybe it's just a smile. There's something that you can do. Maybe it's like a sense of humor. There's something, and by the way, the right man is going to be attracted to that. There's lots of men who are attracted to, more reserved women or like even introverted women, because it's a perfect balance for him. It's his safe haven, so to say.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll say with that, really, one of the most powerful things is your eyes. Even if you're a shy girl, you can do a lot with your eyes, and just looking the way you look, having open eyes, open body language. That's the best way to flirt with a guy. Really, just being open and approachable, which again is feminine energy. You're that flower opening up, exposing your heart, exposing yourself to radiate and be attracting the man that you want. So. Hope this was helpful for tonight. Again, if you haven't yet, highly recommend taking our free quiz to get a loving, long-term, committed relationship with the man you want. This will be the next best step for you to really master these principles, really get that relationship you want with a guy that you're interested in right now, or a new guy that you're attracting in your life, and also attract all the abundance that you want into your life in other areas. So again, click on the link in the description or comments below, or go to our website, magnetizeyourman.com, to go pick that up right now. Much love. Hope you enjoyed this. Take care, and we'll talk to you again very soon. Bye-bye.